What if everything you've been taught about following Jesus has kept you from understanding the most revolutionary truth he ever spoke? When Jesus declared, "I am the way," most Christians assumed he was establishing himself as the exclusive path to God, a divine figure to worship from a distance, to follow obediently, to petition desperately when life becomes overwhelming. But what if that interpretation completely misses what Jesus was actually revealing? What if, in those 3 words, he wasn't creating a religion at all, but extending an invitation so radical, so transformative, that fully grasping it would dissolve the very foundation of spiritual separation you've experienced your entire life? Has this ever happened to you? You're facing a crisis, maybe a health scare, a financial collapse, a relationship falling apart, and you find yourself praying with everything you have, begging God for intervention, feeling like your words are just echoing in an empty room. That profound sense of distance between you and the divine, that feeling that God is somewhere out there while you're stuck down here, desperately trying to bridge an impossible gap. It's not just uncomfortable. According to the deeper meaning of Jesus' words, it's the very illusion he came to shatter. Most of us have been conditioned since childhood to approach spirituality from a position of fundamental separation. We've been taught to see ourselves as flawed humans reaching toward a perfect God, as limited beings trying to connect with unlimited divinity, as spiritual orphans pleading with a distant father for help. We worship, we follow, we obey, all from this underlying assumption that we are fundamentally disconnected from the source of life itself. But when Jesus said, "I am the way," he wasn't asking you to walk behind him. He was revealing something far more profound about the very nature of your identity. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Here's what most people never discover. When Jesus boldly proclaimed, "You are gods," in John 10:34, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He wasn't making some poetic exaggeration or claiming special status only for himself. He was unveiling a universal, spiritual truth so revolutionary that religious institutions have spent 2,000 years obscuring it, diluting it, explaining it away. Why? Because if you truly understood what Jesus meant, if you genuinely grasped the implications of his declaration, it would completely transform not just your theology, but your entire experience of existence. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might challenge everything you thought you knew about Jesus, about God, and most importantly, about yourself. The distinction between following the way and becoming I am represents the difference between a lifetime of spiritual seeking and the immediate recognition of what has always been true. And that distinction changes absolutely everything about how you pray, how you heal, how you experience divine presence in your daily life. The question isn't whether you can follow Jesus closely enough. The question is, are you ready to understand what he actually meant when he said, "I am the way," and what that profound statement reveals about who you really are? Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining something most people completely overlook when they read the Gospels. If you pay close attention to Jesus' words and actions throughout Scripture, you'll notice something absolutely remarkable that reveals the hidden truth behind his entire ministry. Jesus never begged. He never pleaded with God. He never bargained or negotiated for divine intervention like so many of us do when we're desperate for answers or relief from suffering. Think about the contrast here. When you're facing a crisis, what's your natural response? Most of us immediately start praying from a place of lack, don't we? We beg, we plead, we promise God we'll be better if only this one thing works out. We approach prayer like we're trying to convince a reluctant deity to help us, as if we need to make our case compelling enough to earn divine attention. But Jesus operated from an entirely different consciousness, and understanding this difference is what unlocks the real meaning behind "I am the way." When Jesus spoke, whether he was healing the sick, calming storms, or teaching crowds, he did so with unwavering confidence. This wasn't arrogance or spiritual pride that somehow made him superior to everyone else. It was the natural expression of someone who fully understood his relationship with the divine source. He recognized an eternal truth that existed before time began, a truth that transformed every decision he made and every action he took. When he declared, "I am the way," he was speaking from complete recognition of his divine nature. And this is the crucial distinction that changes everything about the spiritual journey. If this message resonated with you, consider joining our community by subscribing. We explore these transformative truths that reveal your divine nature and what Jesus truly meant by his teachings. The impact of this understanding on your own life cannot be overstated. What Jesus was desperately trying to help us see is that the divine nature isn't something external to you that you need to reach through years of spiritual effort or religious practice. It's not a distant destination you're trying to get to through good behavior or perfect theology. Behind the scenes of all authentic spiritual transformation is this fundamental revelation. Divinity is your original nature, your true identity beneath all. The layers of conditioning and false beliefs about separation that have accumulated throughout your life. When this recognition truly dawns in your consciousness, everything shifts. Your prayers completely transform from desperate pleas into conscious recognition. Instead of "Please God, help me," you begin to acknowledge divine wisdom is already present in this situation. Your entire spiritual practice evolves from striving and struggling to allowing and receiving. The mindset changes from "I need to get closer to God" to "I am recognizing what has always been true." Your whole experience of existence changes from exhausting struggle into natural, effortless unfolding, like a river that's been dammed finally flowing freely again. This is what separates perpetual spiritual seeking from genuine spiritual awakening. One keeps you forever chasing something you believe you don't have, while the other reveals what has been present all along. If you've ever experienced even a brief moment where prayer felt less like begging and more like recognition, write in the comments, "I've felt this shift." There's a hidden framework behind Jesus' declaration, "You are gods," that most people miss entirely because they're reading it through the lens of traditional religious interpretation. But when you strip away centuries of theological overlay and look at what he was actually revealing, you discover something that fundamentally reshapes your entire understanding of existence. Jesus wasn't speaking about some lofty theological concept reserved for saints or mystics. He was pointing to a threefold reality that describes your actual nature right now: source, expression, and substance. Think about how divinity expresses itself throughout all creation. Every flower that blooms, every star that burns across vast distances of space, every breath of wind that moves through the trees. All of these are expressions of the same creative force. They're not separate from divinity, trying to become divine. They already are divine expression in different forms. And here's the revolutionary truth that transforms everything. The divine expresses through you in exactly the same way. Your thoughts, your feelings, your creativity, your capacity for love, your very consciousness itself. None of these are separate from the creative force that birthed the universe. They are expressions of it, manifestations of that same source energy taking form through your unique perspective and experience. This isn't spiritual theory or poetic language meant to inspire you. This is the fundamental reality behind your existence, the actual structure of what you are. The impact of truly grasping this cannot be overstated because it dissolves the primary illusion that creates all human suffering, the belief that you are fundamentally separate from your source. Behind the scenes of every moment of anxiety, every experience of lack, every feeling of limitation lies this single misperception. And when that illusion dissolves through recognition, your entire experience of life undergoes a complete transformation. The journey Jesus was inviting people into becomes clear when you understand this context. When he proclaimed, "I and my Father are one," he wasn't making an exclusive claim that applied only to himself, as if he possessed some special divine status that set him apart from all other human beings. He was unveiling the universal truth about every person's relationship with divine source. This is what makes his statement, "I am the way," so profound. He wasn't saying, "Follow me because I'm uniquely divine." He was saying, "Recognize in yourself what I have recognized in myself." This oneness he spoke of isn't something you need to achieve through decades of spiritual practice or religious devotion. It's not a distant goal waiting at the end of some long journey of self-improvement. The mindset shift that's required isn't about becoming something you're not, but recognizing what has always been true. This oneness is the very foundation of your existence, present right now in this moment, whether you're aware of it or not. When Jesus said, "I am the way," he was pointing to this consciousness of oneness as the path itself, the revelation that dissolves separation and reveals the truth of your identity. If this understanding is beginning to shift something in how you see yourself, type in the comments, "I am divine expression." Let me share a metaphor that makes this entire concept crystal clear, because once you truly see this, you can never unsee it. Imagine standing on a beach, watching the vast, boundless ocean stretching to the horizon. You see countless waves rising and falling, each one unique in its shape, its height, its movement. Now here's the question that unlocks everything. When you look at a wave, what are you really seeing? Are you seeing something separate from the ocean, something trying desperately to become oceanic? Of course not. The wave isn't separate from the ocean at all. It already is ocean, temporarily expressing itself in wave form. Think about the substance of that wave. Its entire being, everything it's made of, is nothing other than ocean. The wave doesn't need to strive to reach the ocean or somehow earn the right to be part of it. It is already one with the ocean, simply expressing as a unique formation for a brief moment in time before returning to the whole. And here's where this metaphor reveals the profound truth hidden behind Jesus' words. You are not a human being trying to reach God. You are divine life temporarily expressing in human form. The impact of this recognition on your entire spiritual journey is absolutely transformative. Everything shifts when you grasp this. You're not on some endless quest to find something you lack or to become something you're not. The journey transforms from constant seeking into progressive recognition of what has always been true. Behind the scenes of this transformation is a fundamental shift in how you make decisions, how you approach challenges, how you experience every moment of your existence. Prayer completely changes its nature when this understanding takes root in your consciousness. It's no longer about convincing some distant deity to help you, trying to make your case compelling enough to earn divine intervention. Instead, prayer becomes a moment of conscious alignment with the truth of your being, a remembering of what is already present rather than a pleading for what seems absent. The mindset shifts from "please give me" to "I recognize that." Healing takes on an entirely different meaning as well. It's not about fixing something fundamentally broken in you or repairing some flaw in your design. It becomes about allowing the wholeness that is already present at the core of your being to express more fully through your experience. The obstacles to healing aren't about divine reluctance to help you, but about beliefs and patterns that block the natural flow of wholeness that wants to express through you. Even your relationship with abundance transforms through this recognition. Abundance isn't something external you need to chase after, manipulate circumstances to attract or earn through enough good behavior. It's the natural state of your being when aligned with your divine nature, when you're no longer blocking the flow through beliefs in separation and lack. This revelation about your true identity as divine expression changes every decision you make, because you're operating from a completely different foundation of understanding. If you're beginning to see yourself differently through this metaphor, write "I am the wave and the ocean" in the comments. What we've been missing for 2,000 years is the actual invitation Jesus was extending. The hidden truth behind his entire ministry wasn't that he alone possessed some exclusive connection with the Father that set him apart from all humanity. It was precisely the opposite. He was demonstrating that this oneness, this consciousness of divine identity, is the natural state of every being, not just a privileged few. His invitation was never, "Worship me as separate and special, as someone fundamentally different from you." It was always, "Recognize in yourself what I have recognized in myself." When Jesus said, "I am the way," he was pointing to something so much more profound than most people realize. He meant this consciousness of divine identity that I embody, this recognition of oneness with Source that flows through everything I do and say. This is your way forward too. Not following behind me like a disciple trails a master, but becoming as I am. Not imitating my external actions, but awakening to the same internal recognition. This revelation completely transforms the very nature of the spiritual journey itself, shifting it from external imitation to internal awakening, from seeking outside yourself to discovering what has always been present within. The impact of this understanding becomes even more clear when you look at what creates human suffering in the first place. Joel Goldsmith, one of the great mystical teachers of the 20th century, revealed something that cuts right to the heart of the human condition. He taught that grasping your divine nature dissolves the root cause of all human suffering, and that root cause is singular: the belief in separation. Think about that revelation for just a moment and let it sink in. Every experience of pain, every moment of anxiety, every sense of lack and limitation you've ever felt, all of it stems from this single misperception that you are somehow separate from your divine source. If this is shifting how you see yourself, a quick tap on the like button helps others searching for this truth find their way here. Behind the scenes of all human struggle is this fundamental illusion of disconnection. When you believe you're cut off from Source, everything becomes a struggle. You feel like you need to earn love, fight for resources, protect yourself against a hostile universe, prove your worth to an indifferent cosmos. The decisions you make from this consciousness of separation create experiences that reinforce the very separation you fear. It's a self-perpetuating cycle that keeps you trapped in patterns of seeking, striving, and suffering. But when you begin living from the consciousness that the divine is your actual source and substance, not just poetically or metaphorically, but literally, as the very foundation of your being, everything changes. The transformation isn't just philosophical or theoretical, it's experiential, practical, immediate. Your relationship with life itself undergoes a fundamental shift because you're no longer operating from the mindset of separation that creates all those painful experiences in the first place. The journey transforms from endless seeking into progressive awakening, from desperate grasping into peaceful allowing. If this is resonating with you and you're beginning to see how separation thinking has shaped your experience, write "Separation is the illusion" in the comments. Let me show you something that will completely change how you approach prayer and your entire relationship with the divine. Consider the stark contrast between two people facing the exact same challenge, but operating from completely different levels of consciousness. The first person, who perceives divinity as distant and separate, naturally prays from that mindset. Please, God, help me with this problem. I need you to intervene. I can't handle this alone. Their entire approach stems from a consciousness of separation, lack, and dependency on an external power that may or may not choose to help them. Every word, every plea, reinforces the very separation they're trying to bridge. But someone who has awakened to the truth that Jesus revealed, when he said, "You are gods," prays in an entirely different way. Their prayer isn't about begging an external deity for intervention or trying to convince some distant judge to rule in their favor. Instead, it's about recognizing what's already present. They acknowledge that divine wisdom isn't something distant they need to acquire or earn through enough pleading. It's already present within them as their true nature and inheritance. The transformation in how they approach the same challenge is profound, because the mindset behind their prayer is fundamentally different. This isn't just a subtle shift in wording. It's a complete revolution in consciousness that changes the entire energy and effectiveness of your spiritual practice. Behind the scenes of this difference is a recognition that either reinforces separation or dissolves it. When you pray from separation consciousness, you're actually strengthening the very illusion that creates your suffering. When you pray from recognition consciousness, you're aligning with the truth that sets you free. The hidden truth becomes even more obvious when we examine how Jesus approached healing throughout his ministry. Here's what's remarkable. Jesus never begged God to intervene from some distant heaven. He never pleaded for divine assistance as though it was separate from him, external to the situation, something that had to be called down or convinced to show up. Instead, he simply acknowledged the divine presence right there in the situation. He recognized a fundamental spiritual principle that changes everything. Where divine presence is acknowledged, wholeness must naturally express. Where divinity flows unobstructed by beliefs in separation, the expression of that divinity is already complete. This wasn't miraculous in the way we typically think of miracles, as if Jesus had some supernatural power to bend the rules of reality. It was the natural manifestation of spiritual law working through someone who fully understood his divine identity. The impact of his healings wasn't about him being special or unique. It was about him demonstrating what becomes possible when you live from recognition rather than separation. The decisions he made in those healing moments weren't based on hoping God would show up, but on knowing that God was already present, already whole, already complete in that very situation. If you're starting to see prayer differently through this understanding, write recognition over pleading in the comments. Here's the breakthrough revelation that changes everything about how you approach your spiritual life and the challenges you face every single day. Divine resources aren't something you need to hunt down, earn through good behavior, or convince to come your way through enough prayer and devotion. They're your inheritance through the simple fact of relationship. Think about how inheritance works in human families. A child doesn't need to beg their parents for DNA, for eye color, for the traits that naturally pass from one generation to the next. These things are inherited automatically through the relationship itself, not through earning or deserving. The same principle applies to your relationship with divine source. But most of us have been conditioned to approach it backwards. We've been taught to see divine qualities like peace, wisdom, abundance, and love as distant treasures we need to somehow acquire, as if they're external to us and we're fundamentally lacking them. But when you grasp what Jesus meant by "I am the way," you realize that divine life isn't something that might flow to you someday if you're finally worthy enough. It's already flowing through you right now, in this very moment. Divine wisdom isn't a distant quality you need to acquire through decades of spiritual practice and study. It's already present within you as your true mind, your original consciousness, before layers of conditioning obscured it. Behind the scenes of this understanding is a complete shift in how you make decisions and approach every situation in your life. You stop operating from a mindset of lack, constantly trying to get something you believe you don't have. Instead, you begin operating from recognition of what's already present, allowing it to express more fully through your experience. The impact of this shift isn't just philosophical. It creates tangible, practical changes in your everyday reality. When this divine realization truly dawns in your consciousness, not just as an intellectual concept, but as a lived experience, you begin to notice remarkable shifts happening. Healing happens naturally, not because you've mastered some advanced spiritual technique or memorized the right prayers. It happens because you've remembered the truth of who you are as divine expression in human form. Think about what happens when you remove a dam that's been blocking a river. The water doesn't need to be taught how to flow or given instructions on which direction to go. It simply returns to its natural state, moving freely as it was always meant to. Similarly, when you remove the mental barriers of separation that have been blocking your experience, divine qualities express through you naturally as your authentic state of being. The journey isn't about acquiring something foreign to your nature. It's about removing the obstacles to what wants to naturally flow through you. If you're experiencing shifts in your life as this understanding deepens, write, "My barriers are dissolving" in the comments. Now, I want to reveal something that might completely flip everything you've been taught about your natural state as a human being. Most of us have been conditioned since childhood to accept limitation, lack, struggle, and fear as our default condition. We've been taught that scarcity is normal, that anxiety is just part of being human, that we need to fight and strive for every good thing we experience. This conditioning runs so deep that we don't even question it. We assume that peace is something rare and distant that we must acquire through years of spiritual practice or struggle. We believe wisdom is something we fundamentally lack, that must be painfully accumulated through experience and study. But this revolutionary understanding that Jesus was pointing to when he said, "I am the way," flips that entire paradigm completely. Peace is not something distant you must work tirelessly to achieve. It is your inheritance, your natural state as divine expression. When you're not experiencing peace, it's not because peace is absent from your life. It's because something is blocking your awareness of the peace that's always present. Wisdom is not something you fundamentally lack that needs to be gathered piece by piece over decades. It is your birthright, flowing naturally from your divine nature when you're not blocking it with beliefs about your limitations. The same principle applies to every divine quality you can imagine. Abundance, joy, love, creativity, strength. All of these are aspects of your true nature, not distant goals you need to chase after. The transformation in mindset here is profound because it shifts you from a consciousness of constantly trying to acquire what you lack to simply recognizing what's already present. Behind the scenes of every moment you experience lack or limitation is a simple misperception blocking your awareness of the abundance that's actually there. The impact of this shift becomes practical when you begin implementing it in your daily life, and it doesn't require complicated techniques or hours of practice. Begin by sitting quietly each morning for just 10 to 15 minutes before your day unfolds. This isn't complicated meditation requiring special breathing techniques or mantras. It's simply quiet recognition. The revolutionary aspect is that you don't ask God for anything during this time. You're not making requests or presenting your wish list. Instead, you simply acknowledge the truth. I am divine expression right now. My breath, my consciousness, my very being in this moment is divine life expressing. Throughout your day, particularly in those moments when you feel yourself straining against circumstances or becoming anxious about outcomes, pause for just a moment. Take one conscious breath, then silently acknowledge, divine intelligence is operating in this situation right now. This simple practice creates a remarkable shift in your experience. You'll literally feel yourself releasing the weight of trying to control outcomes through limited human will alone. If this practice is resonating with you, write, "I choose recognition" in the comments. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey, I want you to know something. This isn't random. The fact that you're here right now, that these words resonated with you, that something inside recognized the truth we've been exploring, that's significant. You're not accidentally stumbling upon spiritual content. You're awakening to what has always been true about you. I share these teachings every week because I've witnessed their transformative power, both in my own life and in the lives of countless others who've embraced this understanding. If this message awakened something in you today, if you felt a shift in how you see yourself and your relationship with the divine, consider becoming part of our community by subscribing. We dive deeper into these life-changing principles that Jesus actually taught, not to follow him from a distance, but to recognize in ourselves what he recognized in himself. And if something within you truly resonated as we explored what "I am the way" really means, I'd love to hear from you. Simply comment, "This was meant for me, so I know this found the right heart at the right time." That gentle tap on the like button helps others discover these transformative teachings, people who might be seeking exactly this understanding right now, wondering if there's more to spirituality than what they've been taught. There's a video right here that takes this understanding even deeper, exploring how to actually embody this divine consciousness in your daily life, especially when facing challenges. Click and continue with me there as we uncover more of what it truly means to live from the recognition that you are divine expression.